Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to the Obsidian Mindset Podcast. My name is Joe, aka Joe the Wellness Curator, and we are here to help redefine what wellness means to you. This is episode 3, titled My Are You Okay Moment. So let's just jump right into our quotes and affirmations. So like I stated before, I like to start off each day with a quote, affirmation, a little meditation, because that's how I usually like to get this day started. That's just the vibe that I'm trying to create, right? Literally what I said, affirmations, you're just setting up the vibe. I noticed that whenever I do affirmations, literally whatever I say, it'll either come up throughout the day, or it is a message that I need to tell myself over and over again, because it's either right on time, I'm going through something, because life be lifing, things be getting through. So usually they help me just get my mind right. So my affirmation for you today, or today's affirmation, is I am confidently expressing myself openly and honestly. One more time. I am confidently expressing myself openly and honestly. Continue breathing in and out. Just close your eyes for a second. Just be present for a second. Just stay with me for 30 seconds. I know you have options to turn this fast forward. I know you can have the option to turn this off. But just give yourself 30 seconds to be here and to be present. This is for you too. Breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 4. Continue breathing. Breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 4. Relax. Unclench your jaw. Plant your feet and feel grounded wherever you are. I want you to follow your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale for 4. Exhale for 4. Now let's say the affirmation again one more time. I am confidently expressing myself openly and honestly. There's so many aspects in our lives daily that you get to express ourselves. There are so many spaces that you may not want to hear your voice. Run that back. Now say the affirmation again. I am confidently expressing myself openly and honestly. There are so many aspects in our lives daily that you get to express yourself. There are so many spaces that may not want to hear your voice. There are so many spaces that are simply not ready to hear your voice, your thoughts, your opinions. But you get to express yourself authentically for you, for others, whether at work, whether for your family, whether with your friends, whether in your community. You get to speak your truth. Your voice is needed in this world. Breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 4. Last one. Breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 4. Thank you for staying with me. Okay, so now that we're grounded, let's talk a second about the next dimension of wellness, which is emotional wellness. So what do you mean by emotional wellness? I'm sure you're thinking. And how will it get you better results in the gym, right? Like, how will it get me sprinting faster? How will it get me squatting deeper? Just stay with me, right? Because emotional wellness is important too. Emotional wellness is just being attentive to your feelings and being able to understand how to handle these emotions. So let's talk about it for a second. How are you doing emotionally right now? As I'm recording, let's call a spade a spade. It's important to acknowledge the environment that we're in. Right now we are a few days past the 1-year anniversary of being locked down in COVID-19. Rest in peace, and may the ancestors look over the 530,000 U.S. citizens that's passed over, and over 120 million people that has passed over the worldwide that are no longer here. 2020 has been a hell of a year, And I don't want to talk to y'all. I don't want to talk for y'all, but I know I'm tired. Like tired, like that's Jamaican. Tired, right? And I think we've all had different phases of the lockdown, from like tired to, for some reason, everyone was baking bread at one point, to somehow TikTok being the new Verge, right? To, just different phases. But honestly, this winter was pretty brutal. It was cold, it was dark, all the holiday seasons were there, and they had to be modified. The sun was out, so now the sun is out, and the weather's getting a little better, and my mood's elevating. So for me, it's getting a little better. But the winter was rough. I mean, this whole pandemic thing has been rough, mentally, physically, emotionally. We have all been tested, and of course, both on a personal level and a systemic level, some more than others, but here we are. First, I think it's important to just be grateful for being here, being where we are, whether everyone has their own definitions of gratitude, and we all have different ways of expressing it. But we may be scraped up and we may be bruised, but to quote a great lyricist, blessings all upon my life. I'm not even gonna sing it, but it's blessings all upon my life, and me thank God for the journey. The earnings are just 50 plus. Yeah, gratitude is a must. Yeah, So, excuse my horrible singing. That was Kofi, by the way. But daily gratitude is necessary. It always is. It always will be. No matter how dark things are, there will be always something to be grateful for. And I think it's easy to be desensitized and to downplay what's going on, right, and what we're going through. I think it is a once in a lifetime, right now I'm knocking on wood, pandemic. What we're going through collectively is pretty insane if you really take a step back. I think being in it is one thing, but if you take a step back and you're like, if you had told me a year ago, January 2020, that, and I was, the beginning of 2020, January, I was in Ghana, just leaving my friend's wedding, year of the return. I want to go back so badly, but anyway. And if you had told me a year later I'd be stuck in the middle of a pandemic that has wiped out, that has just like created so much havoc in people's lives, affected everyone in some type of way, that we'd be working from home, or some people on the front lines daily. If you had told me people would be going to grocery stores in their masks, I would have thought you were bugging, right? Like, what? But then again, if you had told me that we would have to not only be grieving on a personal level, but as a community, as a country, as a society, without even being able to hold or be with others, I would have also said you were bugging, because that's crazy. But that's where we are. And I think it's important to be real and grounded in that fact, while also being grateful. So yes, I have joy, and I have gratitude for where I am, who I am, and those around me. But a brother is still tired. You feel me? Like, I could still be both. It's both ends. So it really reminded me of actually the Oprah interview. I don't know if I'm sure everyone's seen the Oprah interview with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Whew. All I'll say is, were you silent or silenced? I love that line. But anyway, Oprah brought up a time mentioned in an interview Oprah brought up a time that Meghan Markle was interviewed by a reporter, and the reporter simply asked, "Are you okay?" And this was in response to her giving birth to Archie and some negative press and opinions about her going on in the news. And, she quietly smiled, and you could see in her face, she was being very strategic in choosing her words. And, it was very strategic, and it was working until it wasn't. And then you could tell where she just couldn't hold that facade anymore. And it just fell in seconds. And she started answering candidly and vulnerably. And then she just noticed she was not okay. And it's been some time since anyone asked, not only asked if she was okay, but was actually concerned if she was okay. So let's talk about that. The "are you okay" moment. I don't know if you guys have ever expressed it, but or experienced it rather. But it's that question can be so powerful when asked at the right time, or maybe at the wrong time for that matter, right? Normally, if someone asks me, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm cool." "Yeah, I'm good." Because normally I'm good. Normally it's not something, quote unquote, I can't handle, right? For some reason, it's something we always have to handle. For some reason that we figure out we have to handle it ourselves. But sometimes there's that one time you're just super tired, the energy's low, you've just gone through everything, you're fed up, you're resigned, and then someone asks, "Are you okay?" And it goes from an ancillary question to an emotional release. And it's funny because I had one in 2020 at the end, and it really brought me back. It was a snap. It was a wake up call. All right, so boom. It was right after Thanksgiving. I was working some long hours at work. I didn't see my family for Thanksgiving. I knew Christmas was a wash because I knew I wasn't going to see them either. Then I had just gained some weight, which is usually typical during the winter months. But that doesn't. I still feel that. I still feel the feels when that happens. I haven't seen my friends in a while. I was going through a major decision about some job changes, and had a few personal things going on at the same time. So let me just say that things were stacking up, right? And for the most part, I was handling it. I was doing what I had to do. There you go. Another word, always handling it. But not to mention that things were stacking up. We are also in a Panasonic, right? Like there's still this whole pandemic going on, but I was still holding it together. But barely, right? Or at least there was a lot. There was a lot going on. So I just remember being tired and cranky after not getting sleep one day, because I had just worked particularly late that one night for a deadline. And I think it was funny because that morning, I think my package was either lost or stolen. So if you're keeping track right now, I'm tired, cranky, frustrated, fed up, right? So it was this one particular day right after Thanksgiving. And I remember I had just missed a deadline, or I was about to miss a deadline. And a friend called me. And, she needed something, asked for a question, I answered it. And then somewhere in the conversation, she just ended with like, "Are you okay?" And I don't know what happened. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the tone. I don't know if it was the timing. I don't know if it was something in my voice that made her ask that question, or if it was just a check-in, but I broke down. And I'm talking ugly cry breakdown. I'm talking like watching an episode of This Is Us kind of breakdown. And if you've never watched This Is Us and not have broken, well, we won't get into that. But it was a rough run. And it was an emotional release, and I just let it all out. And there were some things that even came up out of that conversation I didn't even know was an issue, right? But it felt like the weight was released off of me. And I exhaled, took a few seconds, and my friend definitely counseled me and consoled me. But that "are you okay" moment was a wake up call for me. And what it reminded me was, firstly, folks, we need to talk to people. We need people. We don't need to face things alone. Whether you have close friends, whether you have a friend group, if you have your family, you have your community, you should have someone to talk to. If those are not available, if they're not enough, or if you just want a licensed third opinion, definitely please look into therapy. If you know me, I speak openly about therapy and going. It's been a game changer in my life and my wellness journey. For those that need resources, definitely look out for like therapy for Black girls or therapy for Black men. They have a great listing and resources of Black professionals and other resources that will be beneficial to you. I think that's actually where I got my provider. They have a plethora of resources. I would say even for those that might have additional issues or barriers of access or financial commitments, definitely look in your networks, definitely look at your insurance. Definitely look for free counseling. I know that there are even some therapists that have sliding scales or do pro bono work, but also look at websites and apps for these low prices and that are also beneficial. So you can even, so there's so many ways. Just to wrap it, there are so many ways to talk to someone. So it is okay not to be okay. It's okay to talk to someone about it. That does not make you lesser than, does not make you weak. We are all human. And I think secondly, you really have to remember to put yourself first, especially during these times. We are in a time where we are being pulled in 34 ways by 23 different people. Even in a pandemic, you may feel like you're having more obligations and pressures now, right? Your time, your schedule, your calendar is now filled with more consuming things like Zooms, because I'm sure you're zoomed out. I'm zoomed out as well. But none of that matters if you're not okay, right? None of that matters if you're not taking care of yourself or putting yourself first. None of that matters if you are worrying yourself sick or trying to carry the world's burdens on your shoulder by yourself. That mental blockages, let's say, or mental issues, stress, all of that affects your physical being. If you let something build up your mentally, your physical can feel it. I've had those days where I was so mentally sick or so mentally exhausted, my body feels heavy, right? We want to avoid that. So, talk to someone. Like I said, we're human. It happens. We have to learn to take the burdens off for ourselves. No matter what's going on, we have to learn that, just because we live in a society, even in a pandemic, we are somehow still focused on being productive. We are still working under the same assumptions that we were operating before the pandemic. Like, F productivity. What does that mean in a pandemic? Right? Like, are you being productive? And it's not even at work. This mentality will even, and maybe we'll talk about this on BTG. But when you really think about productivity, it's like, why are we thinking about that when the other big P word is looming around us? So sometimes you just have to realize not every moment has to be productive. Sometimes you just need to sit down and be. So now Joe, me, hey. So now I will ask you, are you okay? Before I go into deep dive questions, I want you to literally stop for a few seconds and answer that. How are you doing? Are you okay? So I'm going to literally wait for you to go get a piece of paper or open up your notes app. And I want you to use this time and write down your thoughts. Type it out. Or even if you need to pause this and talk it out, do that. Whatever works for you. But literally take this time. I don't care if you're working. I don't care if you're working out. Take this time to take the next 30 seconds and to let yourself know, how are you doing and how are you okay? Okay, so I hope that was enough time. If you feel like you needed some more time, feel free to run the tunes back or pause it and keep writing. I'll still be here when you press play. But now we're going to go into our next segment, deep dive questions. And I think this segues perfectly into taking care of self, right? So for this segment, I'll answer a question that's provided and created by Obsidian. The prompt will consist of two questions. The first will be a lighter question, a question that'll get us thinking, a little warm it up, like warm up the car. And the second question will go a little deeper and have us be more reflective. So last week, I answered the question, but this week, I hope you're going to have some time to answer the question as well. And just like I gave you time to answer the "How are you doing?" question, I'll give you time to answer these as well. So y'all ready? All right, let's do this. So today's deep dive questions are: what does self-care mean to you? That's it. Similar to the "How are you doing?" question, I'll give you a few seconds to answer the question. Jot it down, take the notes, just give me a few words. Don't overthink it. Just let me know or write down, what does self-care mean to you? All right, let's hit the music. Okay, so for me, it took a while to figure out what this concept meant. I mean, this isn't a concept that they teach you in school. I don't remember learning this as a young boy, as a young Joe, as a young wellness curator. I don't remember there being a class in elementary school about this. If anything, they gave us naps and they snatched it away, right? That messes with a child's psyche. They honestly need to bring those back, but I'm not bitter. So don't get me started. So back to the question, what does self-care mean to you, or mean to me rather? It really took me time to figure out that it means refilling yourself, however that looks like. I remember a mentor told me that you can't give out of an empty cup. We often try to give our energy or put effort into things when we haven't filled our energy, we haven't filled our cup, we haven't filled ourselves before we're pouring into other things and other people, right? So what does that mean? That doesn't mean we don't give. That doesn't mean we stop loving and we stop supporting. It means that we make sure that we're filling ourselves first. It means, as my mentor said, make sure you're giving from your saucer. Make sure you're giving from your saucer and not your cup. You're giving your overflow of extra energy, right? You're giving your overflow of energy while still making sure you're always full and vibrant and whole, right? You don't have to work in a deficit. There's an abundance of energy, abundance of time. There's always a surplus. So let's make sure we're putting ourselves first. Make sure you're putting that energy that you put yourself first. Make sure you're whole and complete and happy. And, one thing that I had to make sure I got this right is it is not selfish, right? It is not selfish to want to have self-care. I don't get those selves confused, right? Is actually, and even right here, I'm going to quote the great Audre Lorde, who said, caring for yourself is not self-indulgent, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. Period. Fill that cup, bro. Fill that cup, sis. Let's go. The second question is, how will you add that into your current routine, daily routine? Okay, so once again, I'll give you 15 to 20 seconds. Feel free to write down your answer. So let's hit the music. Okay, so I have learned when I first thought of self-care, I thought Okay, so it must be like a spa or a trip, something elaborate or something, which it may be, because I love a good mani pedi, but I it's more than that, right? I do miss my trips. I want to travel badly, but I had to get out of that mindset though, because self care doesn't have to be those big things. Self care doesn't have to be an elaborate trip or an elaborate event. Self care can happen daily. Self care are small tokens of appreciation to ourselves. When you speak your whole day, or when you spend your whole day doing something, when you spend your whole day hustling and grinding, family time, church, community, giving back, philanthropy, it is okay to put some time into yourself. And, not saying you have to make this a 5-hour thing, which you can, because a lot of y'all deserve, but it could literally be 5 minutes and whatever that means to you, right? Just a little bit of time to yourself, doing something that brings joy. So for me, to answer the question, I like to try to do something every day, once a day, that brings me joy. Something that's not about something else or someone else, something that's not about work, something that's not about money, but it's just for me. And it looks different every time. One day it might be, I don't want to do anything crazy. I want to watch a show that has minimal thinking. So for me, it might be like a great TV show, like Great British Bake Off. If you haven't, do yourself a favor, plug into it. Or maybe I'm doing a puzzle and drinking a little Merlot. Or maybe it's something that involves others. Sometimes my self-care involves others. Like me going to a bakery with a friend. Or, sometimes self-care is just literally about myself, doing something by myself. I don't know why all my examples had to do with baked goods, but that's clearly the mood I'm in. But, just like working out, just like meditation, it's about being intentional. And, if you're like me and you have a calendar, you live by your calendar, it's okay to pencil yourself in. Pencil yourself into your busy calendar. You got a slot. I know it might be 15 minutes, but you got a slot, just write it in. Put a little calendar reminder every day, 15 minutes. This is me time. As you go along, you might start to gradually increase it to half an hour. Or maybe you need 2 slots of 15. You know what? Just do you. Do whatever feels right for you. But don't be trash. Don't leave yourself hanging. Don't ghost yourself. But treat this with love. Treat this with intention. And do this like you're doing this for your best friend or someone that you love. So I think we've done a lot today. And I just want to get to our last segment of every episode, which is the action and accountability prompt. It's that AA. That's not where we're going to go with. I don't know why. But we set up the groundwork. We got the intentions. We did a little deep reflection and visualization. So now it's time to get to work. It's time to put in that action. So let's see if we can improve our overall wellness one day at a time. So today's action prompt is, this is a fun one. Okay. So today's action prompt is plan a date for yourself. Not you and the kids and them, not you and your spouse or your partner, just you. You go out, you enjoy yourself, or stay in if that's what you want, but enjoy your solo time and enjoy some self-care. Do some of that stuff you wrote down, or take some time to brainstorm what you want it to look like. It could be as elaborate as if you want. If you want to go out and go in a little cabin by yourself, being socially distant, I'm here for it. I support. If you want to go, there's endless ideas. So yeah, be very intentional and put it down on the calendar and set some time aside for you. Really plan it. Get excited about it. This is your time. You deserve this too. Oh man. All right. So we've gone through it. Let's wrap this thing up. I have to go and take care of myself now. So thank you again for tuning in. It's been a blast. It's been a pleasure. As you know, as I say, I'm big on collectivism. So please, please, please subscribe on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Please leave a rating and leave a review. And, it's helpful reviews and ratings are helpful for getting others to listen so we can grow our community. With that, please feel free to share it with your friends, your baby mama, your mama, your great grandmama, whoever wants to listen. There's a vibe for everyone. They can all pick up a gem or two from here. But seriously, I want to thank you. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, definitely feel free to hit me up on either IG. For IG, the social is at Obsidian Mindset. My personal IG is joethewellnesscurator.com. And you can feel free to also email me at info@definedbyobsidian.com.